Hi,
I'm Noah Weinstein.
and I'm Armand Hartoonian.
And this is WeinHart! Hello, everybody.
Hey
Welcome
guys,
back.
how you doing?
Welcome back to
Happy
WeinHart.
New Year.
We are here in 2020. A whole decade has gone through.
Wow.
This is crazy. I know.
Wow.
I mean,
Honestly.
can you believe we started this thing a whole decade ago?
A whole decade ago, man.
I mean, literally, it just felt like it was just yesterday. Anyways, it's really great to be back here. It's been a longish hiatus. There's been a lot of busy stuff. Armand's been busy. I have been busy.
Definitely
and
busy.
just everything has just been happening all at once.
But we knew we had to come back and we had to continue WeinHart for what it is, you know?
That's right.
Gotta keep the grind going, guys. Gotta keep it going.
Exactly. So for this episode today, we are going to be going through our top 10 movies of 2019.
Yeah, top 10 movies of 2019. That's right. It's been a pretty big year in movies, guys.
It has been a huge year. There's just been a lot of films, both commercial and independent, that have really stuck out in the audience mind, and it's really just made such a cultural impact in cinema. So it's there's just been a lot of just absolutely fantastic films this year, particularly compared to other years. But yeah, so without further ado, Armand and I are going to go into our top 10 list of the best films of 2019.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Godzilla King of the Monsters. And the reason why I'll say that is that it's way down the list is because I don't know, like I like monster movies, and it was just done really, really well. It was executed in a way, and we reviewed this. We talked about this in like episode 2 or something, but we talked about how it executed itself very well in bringing out the monsters and the people. It was just a great popcorn action blockbuster. It's definitely, I can't really think of like a number 10, but that's why I would throw that in there, because I just feel like it's a popcorn movie. It's a summer movie. I had a good time. I walked out going, okay, I was entertained. It wasn't like the best thing I saw, but it was pretty good. So I think my number 10 is going to be King of Monsters.
Joker. Number 10 for me is Joker. The performance of Joaquin Phoenix in that movie is absolutely mesmerizing. I remember when we saw this movie, we were legitimately terrified like the whole freaking time, because he was so unpredictable during the whole film. Like, you just didn't know what he was going to do next, and like, that's the sign that you have a great performance right there.
Absolutely.
I have my gripes with the film. Like, for instance, I think the editing is very all over the place. Like, the first act just goes on too long for me, and there's parts of the film that to me aren't as strong as other parts of it. I think the third act is pretty good with Robert De Niro and the Joker, where he confronts him on live TV. That was really shocking and well made. The score is incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a good movie.
Number 9 for me has to be Zombieland Double Tap. And I like this one a lot because it did, first of all, they kept the director the same. It was Ruben Fleischer. So as we all know in this industry, it gets really iffy when you change the director. You don't always get the same material that you want, but they did something where, you know, they kept the director and they kept the material the same. And honestly, I enjoyed watching the second one way more than the first one. I thought it was a great sequel. I thought that they did a fantastic job. They brought back Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin. They had other people in. Luke Wilson did a cameo in there, which was really cool. It was an overall it was a fun movie. It was also it's another time I remember going to the movies and saying, you know what, it's not my Oscar picks are coming. They're at the top. But if I got to start off small and work my way up and get to the big ones. But
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my number 9 pick of the year. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has a lot of really good parts in it. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio have really good chemistry. Margot Robbie has a really nice performance in it. It's a more visual performance than it is a dialogue driven, which is kind of interesting because it's Quentin Tarantino and he's kind of about this and not about what's around me a lot, you know. I mean, the last act of the movie makes this whole film just come together. He's the king of cathartic violence. This guy knows how to make his violent movies just pack a punch and they work. My only thing though, and the reason I put it kind of low on the list is this movie to me, like Joker, also has some pacing problems that I had with the film. Like the first 2 acts of the movie or either have parts of it that are like really hit, and when it doesn't hit for me, I kind of feel like the film just meanders a lot. So that was my only gripe about the film, is like it just meandered everywhere in the first couple of acts.
My number 8 is Avengers Endgame, and I also threw a couple movies in there as well that aren't nominated from Oscars. Martin Scorsese would hate me for saying this, but
Don't tell Marty.
I really liked Avengers Endgame because it's a feel-good movie. You have all these heroes and they're fighting for the same cause, and this was part 2 of taking down Thanos, and it was just so emotional. I remember seeing it on my birthday, and April 26th, the day that it did come out. My eyes were watery, they were teary. I definitely bawled because, if movies strike a nerve with me, like they strike, like that's it, man. Like, if it hits me, it hits me, like there's no going back. Like it's like the point of no return. And at this point, if you haven't seen it, too bad, because Iron Man dies.
And I
My number 8 is El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie.
Okay.
So, I am a huge Breaking Bad fan. I love Breaking Bad. I love the prequel, Better Call Saul. When I saw this movie, I was just blown away by just the impeccable writing and the impeccable directing of Vince Gilligan. I mean, this guy is just such a genius at everything he does. They understand what makes this stuff work. It's not about nostalgia. It's not about, callbacks or whatever. It's about good characters.
That's right.
And that's what they nail every single time. What I will say, though, is El Camino is a fantastic epilogue to Jesse Pinkman's story, to the story of Jesse, and they close it in a really satisfying way that you may or may not have gotten closure from with Breaking Bad. So, excellent, excellent movie. Aaron Paul also knocks it out. Yeah, bitch.
It Chapter 2. You don't get a lot of these movies. I'm not much of a horror movie person. I like horror if it's done to scare you. Like there's like that fear factor, that jump. You're jumping in the theater. I don't like that blood and gore, horror porn shit where people are like chopping people's arms off. But It Chapter 2 is one of those movies where I really like the first one, and this second one did such a great job. Again, great character development. Bill Hader was one of the best parts of It Chapter 2. He did a great job. They all did a great job. They all did, and every single one of them looked exactly like the person that they'd grown up to be. So whoever the casting director was on that, brilliant job, fantastic job. They brought back Andy Muschietti, who did also a very good job on the second one as he did on the first one. If you don't like horror movies, that's fine, but the thing that's different about these movies is that there's soul to them. It brings you together because in these kids or who are now grown adults, to see these people in action fighting this this manifestation of their fears as this, fucked up, messed up clown. It's just amazing. It's a great piece of cinema. It's very well done. It may not be Oscar worthy or this worthy, but then again, not every film has to be an Oscar movie to be an amazing movie.
Marriage Story. So this is the first movie I've seen from Mr. Noah Baumbach. The movie just feels incredibly raw, incredibly powerful, and the best part about this movie is that it just feels like this is really a divorce you are seeing unfold. It does not feel corny. It does not feel half-handed. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson's chemistry are perfect in this. They portray this couple that they want the divorce and the separation to be, amicable and peaceful. But as it goes on, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Laura Dern is fantastic in this movie. She plays a fantastic divorce lawyer in this. She's like very snarky, kind of manipulative too, making Scarlett Johansson kind of just feel like, hey, you got nothing to feel bad about. You're trying to win everything from him, remember? The iconic scene that's been memed everywhere is really, really good. I get why it's everywhere on social media. Like that movie, every day I wake up and I hope you're dead. They connect on such a real level and such a real, they just feel real.
Us.
Oh, yes.
I really love Jordan Peele. I really, really, really liked Us. If you take this movie is also, again, if you haven't seen it, I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people said that they haven't seen it. Please go see it. I mean, it's just a film that unravels in a sense,
There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unravel. It's a psychological thriller. It's a family of four versus, in a sense, their replicas of their, family of four. Jordan Peele's writing is amazing. Even when I saw Get Out, I remember I literally walked down. I told my friend, I said, this writing was just, literally jumping out at me off the screen. Like, that the writing is good when the writing is just in your face and you can see it.
A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Oh.
The Mr. Rogers movie. So, I did not really grow up a Mr. Rogers fan. He is definitely an icon I've come to appreciate a whole lot more as an adult than I did as a kid. A couple of years ago, I saw the Won't You Be My Neighbor documentary.
Right.
And it was fantastic. It is a great documentary just about his life and what he's about. And it's really interesting. He's a really interesting guy. So, a lot of people were thinking about this movie, this is going to be a biopic version of what we saw in the documentary. It is not that at all, even though Tom Hanks is the main guy on the poster and everything. What the movie is really about is it is really about somebody from Esquire magazine who is tasked with interviewing Mr. Rogers. And he's kind of a cynical, kind of bitter guy in the beginning of this movie. He has a lot of emotional problems that he doesn't really address. He just had a newborn child. His father was a scumbag, but now his father's trying to get back into his life, and he doesn't want to accept him back into his life, even though he's really trying and really changing. And then he meets Mr. Rogers, and the bond between him and Mr. Rogers is so powerful because their bond it changes his life. Their friendship kind of changes his life, and he becomes a more positive person because of that. It not only respects the whole legacy of Mr. Rogers, but it also gives you a really great insight into how Mr. Rogers impacted people and the world.
1917. This is a movie where it's less about war. It has themes of war in it, and I'm a sucker for war movies. I love war movies, especially if they're done very, very well. A general calls these two men into a bunker, and he pretty much explains to them that, there's a battle. There's a battle that's going to be happening, or some form of thing where they're entrapment in a sense. They're going to trap these people in the front lines, and there's going to be an attack on them. And these two men have to call off this attack.
Right.
They have to get there in time, call off the attack. It's 1,600 men. If they don't get there on time, these 1,600 men are going to die. And among those 1,600 men is one of the protagonists, his brother, is among the 1,600 men. The cinematography is gorgeous in this. And I came out of the theater, and after the credits rolled, I was like, oh, of course the cinematography was gorgeous. It was Roger Deakins. So, and if you're not familiar with Roger Deakins' work, he did Sicario, and he did Blade Runner 2049, and he's done cinematography for a bunch of other movies. It was Pulse Pounding. It was Edge of Your Seat. I was literally like this the entire time, kind of like on my seat. Like I was like, what's going to happen? Are they going to make it? Are they not? Fantastic movie. It is definitely Oscar worthy. I don't know if it's worthy of a win. It's definitely a very good movie, but there are other films, this year that are more deserving of an Oscar than this movie. Although that's not to say that this is a bad movie, because this movie was done very, very well.
I Lost My Body.
Okay.
So, this movie is a French animated film, and this movie is a very obscure film about this severed hand that has lost its owner, and it is trying to get back to its owner. And throughout the movie, it's a big question mark as to how he got his hand cut off in the first place, and we get the entire story. It's very non-linear. It's kind of like a puzzle piece in a way, so it's like you have to figure out what exactly it was they did and everything. The music is amazing. It's really, really good. It's one of my favorite scores I've heard. I love movie scores too, and this is one of my favorite scores I heard this year. It's so palpitating and just so powerful. At first, when I was looking through my favorite animated movies, I thought Toy Story 4 is the sure winner, because that was the best one of the movies that came out. But then I saw this movie, and I was like, every year there's like always at least one animated film that's just super unique and super interesting to watch and kind of changes the way we look at these movies. And to me, I Lost My Body is 2019's animated movie.
The Irishman.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so The Irishman, Martin Scorsese. I have to say that I really, really enjoyed The Irishman. This movie deals with Frank Sheeran, who is the Irishman, and this is his story. The movie is about Frank Sheeran. This is the last time we are going to see De Niro, Pacino, Pesci, and Scorsese directing. This is the last time we'll probably see this. This was like a monumental thing. This was a historical thing.
I mean, unless we see holographic Scorsese directing holographic Pesci and everybody in like 2030 or something.
Right. But it was done very, very well. It was executed properly from the beginning to the end. Yes, it was long, but just, the story was just... You're watching Frank's life. He's torn in between making these decisions. He meets Jimmy Hoffa along the way, who, as you guys know, he was the union leader for the Teamsters, for the truck drivers, and just the leader of the union and whatnot. I honestly wish it was in theaters a lot longer than a month. Kind of like what they did with Shia LaBeouf's Honey Boy, where they had it in theaters for like 2 to 3 months, and then it was going to go directly to Amazon. I don't think 1 month is enough time, especially for a movie of this kind of caliber to be released in theaters. But Irishman, go see it. De Niro, Pacino, Pesci, they're all amazing. They're all very, very good, and directing is amazing. It hits home, and it has a stick with it. It's a long one, but stick with it, and yeah.
Jojo Rabbit. So it pokes holes at everything that is so bad about Nazis. Nazis are terrible. That's a fact. But This movie pokes holes in it in a way that's so satirical and so crazy that you just can't help but laugh at the idiocy of what these guys do. I mean, Rebel Wilson even says in the movie, it's like hilarious. It's so bad but hilarious. She's like,
it's time to burn some books.
The kid in this movie is really good. Roman Griffin Davis is really, really good in this movie. Fantastic character arc of, he's kind of a misguided kid whose imaginary friend is Hitler. And, yeah, I'm serious. Like, Taika Waititi is... And, Nazism is like his Hot Wheels in the beginning of the film, where it's like his childhood obsession thing. But he doesn't understand what the hell it is. He doesn't understand really what these people do and why they're such bad people. Right. And later in the film, he starts to see what they do, and he starts to change his ways, and he starts to realize that what he's sided with isn't right. This movie is a brilliant takedown of these kind of fascist regimes. It's a brilliant takedown of all of that stuff. And by the end of the movie, when, the kid has changed his ways finally, it's very rewarding because we go on this journey with this kid and this, just the world around him. And we realize that, people can change.
Joker.
That showed up on my list too.
Let's talk about Joker. Noah talked about it earlier. I'm going to touch about it. So Joaquin Phoenix did such a fantastic job in Joker. I was blown up. This movie was so real to me. This movie freaked me out so much that when I was asked to go see it again, I didn't want to see it a second time at that time, even though I loved it, because it was so real to me. I was like, this is a movie that it opens your eyes to culture, and it opens your eyes to what we're going through as a culture. And just for example, there's a point in this movie where personally I was sympathetic with Joaquin Phoenix. I was sympathetic with him at the points where he was being bullied and people were shitting on him and shitting on him and shitting on him constantly. But once he started killing people and taking other people's lives, I was like, okay, man, like, the train has left the station. I'm not on board anymore. The only gripe that I found out about it didn't bother me personally, but I was kind of like, that was not a good thing to do. So there's a scene where he's walking, he's doing his dance, he's dancing down the steps. That's that iconic scene to Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Part 2. Now, for those of you who don't know Gary Glitter was, at some point, he was a child molester. He was a pedophile. So I don't know why they decided to use this guy's song. I mean, he's a pedophile, and his song is like in a movie right now, and it just seems uneasy. But then again, you have to look past that and go, okay, it's art. They're using it for the purposes of just a movie, and whatnot. But anyways, it's a fantastic movie. It's definitely my top 3. If you guys haven't seen it already, go out and see it.
Uncut Gems. Now, I love this movie. I'll just say, to start with this, I absolutely love this movie. Wow. Absolutely mind-blowing movie. The Safdie brothers are really, really talented, and they just really, really know how to, they're just great directors. They really are excellent at their blocking with the actors, the way they move their camera, the way they their choices with the editing are very, very smooth. Adam Sandler, this is the best movie Adam Sandler has ever made. To me, it's his best work to me. He's trying to one-up himself every time, even though he has sold his jewelry and to people, even though he sold it, he's like, hey, can I borrow that for a minute? I'm going to try and pawn it off again and pawn it off again. It captures the fact that Adam Sandler's character is somebody that he just never learns from his mistakes. He almost learns a few times that maybe he's going a little too overboard with his gambling. You want to root for him so badly, but he keeps on falling into the same pitfalls that he keeps doing throughout the entire film, which ultimately lead to his face getting shot at the end of the film. Narratively, this made the most sense and made it the most rewarding because Adam Sandler's character what's interesting is most characters go through an arc. They change and they grow and evolve. Sandler half goes through an arc. You think he's gonna change, but then he just doesn't change. So finishing his story arc with him getting killed at the end, to me, narratively made the most sense. Kevin Garnett is actually excellent in this movie. An absolutely excellent performer. He's a good basketball player, but he's also a very good actor. The editing is really, really interesting, and the sound editing is particularly unique. The whole movie feels like 5 different sounds and dialogue pieces all happening at once. It was a creative decision to get us into the head of Adam Sandler's character. There is so much going on in this guy's head. His brain is running a mile a minute. So the sound illustrated that so perfectly. And when I was finished, I was like, this is one of the best movies I have seen, not just this year, but ever. Oh, wait. Your number 2 is Uncut Gems, right?
It is Uncut Gems.
It is Uncut Gems.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Uncut Gems. Okay.
All right,
So, I don't know, man. This movie just struck such a chord with me. I mean, it was this beautifully orchestrated mess. And when I say mess, I mean that in the most positive way.
Yeah.
It was just all over the place. There was so much stuff going on. It took off the minute the movie began, and it ended with, Adam Sandler's character, as Noah said, getting shot in the face. And you're just sitting there. I was sitting there going, my reaction was just, I didn't like the ending at first, but then kind of thinking about it and talking about it amongst peers and whatnot and kind of doing my own reflection upon it, I realized it was a justified ending. It was how it should have ended, because if he continued doing what he was doing, he was gonna end up dead sooner or later, because he just was doing this stuff. And the entire time I'm sitting there going, like, you're a family man and you're doing this stuff. Like, you don't care what could possibly happen to your family because of your actions. Like, this guy just gave 0 fucks. He didn't care, what happened. The entire movie, he's running around going, "Hey, come get this gem," or, "Hey, let me make you a deal. Hey, I owe you some money, but I'm not gonna give you that money right away," and whatnot. Like, this was my first Safdie Brothers film. I'm happy it was my first Safdie Brothers film because, wow.
The Irishman. Wow, man. That was a killer movie. That was a killer movie. Since I feel you covered this movie pretty well in your number 4, I'm going to just give you my brief take on The Irishman, since I think we kind of talked about this movie pretty well and kind of set our piece on it. So, this is a great movie. Every time I walk out of a Scorsese film, I'm like, I didn't watch a movie. I went on a journey with a character. Do not let the runtime deter you. This is the fastest 3.5 hours I've ever spent. The de-aging technology, fantastic. They really nailed it with the de-aging of De Niro and Pesci and Pacino. It looks very, very convincing. Yeah. I thought it was, I bought it immediately. Yeah. I was just like, they just look young now.
Yeah, it was good. It was pretty good. Pretty good.
What do you want to know? You want to know if I did it or not?
My number 1 movie of 2019 is probably Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
What do you mean probably? It is.
It is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't want to get too much into Tarantino because I'm a Tarantino-phile, and I love everything about Tarantino and Tarantino himself. there's just, a lot to appreciate about him. He's an auteur. He writes his own stuff. He directs his own stuff. He's a pioneer in the industry. He's one of the last remaining auteurs / one of those types of directors left in this in today's day and age, and I have an immense amount of respect for Tarantino. So I really, really thought that this movie would not have worked without Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I honestly think that these two have the best on-screen chemistry together. It's a movie about brotherhood. Yeah, the movie, meanders on and this and that, which I get, but I think it was the themes that I love the fact that we're watching these two, and I think it's because maybe I'm a Hollywood cinephile, and this is just like, I love Hollywood and everything about it, and especially these old-time Hollywood-like films. And I saw this movie 4 times. What the fuck? Everything from directing to casting to locations to the way they recreated Hollywood in the 1970s or late 1960s. But anyways, so great movie. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Just phenomenal, and can't wait for Tarantino's 10th.
So my number 1 favorite movie of 2019 is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just kidding. No, forget that. My number 1 favorite movie is Parasite by Bong Joon-ho. Wow, wow, wow. This is a movie that gets everything so right and functions so well. All of the moving pieces of this movie just work. There is no strong point. There is no weak link. There is just this movie. The editing, the cinematography, the acting, the writing. Oh my God, the writing, the directing. It all works so perfectly in unison. This is one of the absolute best movies I have seen in a very, very long time. This is a movie that just transcends filmmaking. It's my favorite film by director Bong Joon-ho. It's a really, and like, to give you an idea of what the story is about, I won't say much because if I were to describe this to you, this would kind of ruin the experience. But a lot of what this movie is about is, it is about this middle to lower class family that is attempting to find work and get money and just, make it in the world. One of the teenager's character, one of his friends, refers him to start working as a tutor for a rich family's kid. And he accepts the job and he finds out, wow, it feels pretty damn good to be in a rich house, in a rich environment. And that's all I'm going to say. I will leave it there. The rest of the movie just escalates like crazy and it gets to some absolutely bonkers stuff. This is one of the most original films I saw this year. Like, in terms of writing, it's so articulate. The ideas just hit every single time. Mm-hmm. I always felt engaged. Yeah. Parasite just, it blows you away. The acting is so good. It is a brilliant commentary on classism, society, rich versus poor, and all that kind of stuff, while at the same time telling a really genius, brilliant story. And that's the best thing I can say.
Gotta check it out.
So go watch this in a theater. This absolutely needs to be experienced in theaters, and you will be blown away. It's absolutely crazy. Wow. So check out Parasite, and yeah, that's our top 10 of 2019.
Wow, well, I guess that concludes yet another episode of
WeinHart. See you next time.
See you next time, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Hit that subscribe button.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.